Aries, the mystical ram, the sacrificial lamb, Christ, the head of the zodiac. What an awesome archetype. I was always intimidated by Aries, I think because my grandma was a strong, fiery Aries, and I'm a watery Cancer. But anywho, the more I read about Aries, the more I love. And one thing that Aries is associated with, since it is the head forces, is self-consciousness, self-awareness that comes about from having an intact mind, a self-referencing consciousness. And something that's been on my mind a lot lately is the prevalence of somnambulism in the spiritual community. Somnambulism, what a cool word. It means sleepwalking. The relevant context for me regarding somnambulism is the prevalence of the use of hallucinogens in the spiritual community, especially here in Austin. We have an archetype here called the shaman bro, and there's a prevalence of ayahuasca consumption and mushrooms, and there's like a one-sidedly positive view of these things. And I think that I can understand why that is, because it really is a fast track to directly experiencing some deeper dimensions of reality. But there's a downside as well. And if you look into what Rudolf Steiner says about somnambulism, is he says that when you take these hallucinogens, you disintegrate your ego, your sense of self, your individuality. And a lot of people strive for this, but the progressive way forward is to be able to approach the spiritual world in full consciousness with your sense of self intact, so that you can contribute something to it that is uniquely you. And if you disintegrate that by introducing substances into your physical body, that's essentially a form of spiritual materialism, because in order to tap into your spirit, you have to manipulate the physical. You have to ingest some physical substance. So it's this weird, paradoxical sort of materialism. I know that that's the last thing that people would think about when they think about ingesting mushrooms or taking ayahuasca or acid or anything like that. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a place for these things, but there's also a danger. I think they're really helpful early on in life, or if you've had a life that it's been really rigid and really dogmatic and kind of faith-based, but you've been faking your way through it sort of thing. I think it's worth ingesting these substances, a few times to catch a glimpse of these other realms. But if you become reliant upon them for spiritual insight, it's not so good. And I actually had a teacher and a mentor pass away from this mysterious, turbo cancer. And I feel like it may have been related to hallucinogen use. And Rudolf Steiner said that mushrooms are ripe with moon forces. Moon forces are hardening forces. The moon is the container for the densest parts of the earth that had to be extracted from the earth in order for humans to be able to exist in upright posture. Regarding hallucinogens in general, I'll tell you a story. The first time that I did acid, I was 12 years old. My parents were in a band. I'm growing up in Austin, Texas, and my parents are playing a gig on 6th Street. And so what am I doing? I'm hosting a party at my house. And somehow we end up being able to get some acid. And I took that $5 hit of acid, had a crazy experience. But during this experience, I felt something yoke onto me, get into my low back, and just tighten up the muscles all up and down my lumbar spine. That lingered with me for over a decade. And what I based on what I know now, what I see that happened there was that an entity, a hindering being, was able to enter into my ether body and create some problems for me after the fact, which I think I have dispelled this hindering being from my lower back. But that's what Steiner said you're at risk of experiencing, is that when you take a substance that disintegrates your ego and loosens your etheric body, that you open yourself up to the potential of being seized by a being that you might even like present itself as beneficial during your trip. So you can actually access a direct relationship to the spiritual world by cultivating imagination and inspiration through meditation while maintaining your intact I, capital I, ego. So rather than relying upon a physical substance to alter the chemistry of your physical body, to disintegrate your ego, to revert you into a mode of consciousness that we experienced on Old Moon before we had physical bodies. So Old Moon is a previous planetary condition of which the Lemurian epoch is a recapitulation. When you take hallucinogens, you revert to that mode of consciousness. I don't want to be preachy because I've done hallucinogens a lot. And so I did give that little caveat earlier to say, like, hey, dabbling in it, it's fine. Just know that there's something more out there, and that could actually be more beneficial, and you don't run the risk of being seized upon by hindering entities. So imagination is where you build up these concepts and you yoke them together, and they become associated with a mental image that when you see things out in the sense perceptible world, you have an association back to this image, and it gives you deeper insight into, hey, what's really going on here? So what's really going on when you take ayahuasca, or you take acid, or you take mushrooms, and you disintegrate your sense of self and glimpse these deeper dimensions? Oh, that's Old Moon consciousness. Okay, that's this picture of a time in which physical matter didn't exist yet. The Earth which was called Old Moon, was actually a giant plant, like a mass of algae, and human beings were spiritual beings hovering in the atmosphere. We were its atmosphere. That's kind of a crazy imagination, but it's a powerful thing to meditate on. And so when you think about like the fall is the gradual process of us inhabiting a physical form, which then gives us the possibility to have an individualized sense of self-consciousness associated with Aries, the head forces. So would we just want to just disintegrate that and say, no, we don't. There's no purpose for this. I gotta get out of this. That's what a lot of spiritual, especially a lot of Eastern spiritual teachings, there's a longing to return. It's funny. There's like a spiritual conservatism to go back to how it was on Old Moon. But the future condition of the Earth in anthroposophy is called Jupiter. And what happens there is for people who have cultivated imagination, inspiration, and intuition, who have a relationship to the spiritual world, well, we are going to elevate out of these physical bodies, but we're still going to maintain our sense of self, and we're going to operate on bodies, like we're going to work through bodies that might be silicon based. We're getting sci-fi here, but we're going to operate them from without. Our sense of self is going to be outside of them. So then there's going to be the people that are reliant on a physical form to have a sense of self-consciousness, and they're going to stay in physical bodies, and they're going to take a different trajectory. They're going to be relegated to a moon of Jupiter called the eighth sphere. So these are all imaginations that you can ponder on and you can read about. And if you're watching this video this far, you probably know about this stuff already, but it's good to be reminded about it and hear it in a different way from a different person. So yeah, be careful out there of relying on hallucinogens to feed your spiritual life. Highly recommend meditation and maintaining your sense of self so that you can bring your full consciousness into the spiritual world, because the angels, archangels, archai, exousiai, dunamis, kuriotetes, thrones, cherubim, and seraphim, they love that. They want the 10th hierarchy of the human beings to maintain a sense of self so that they can contribute something of their own uniqueness. If you liked this video, found it informative, please like and subscribe and leave me a little note. I love connecting with people who are into anthroposophy or even new to anthroposophy, who are curious, who want to have a constructive relationship to spirit, nature, and human beings. And yeah, thank you.